Welcome to another episode of Behind the Strategy, challenging your perspective, motivating your mind, and simplifying your strategy.
With today's inspiring guest sharing what's behind their own strategy, so you can boost your business and love your life that little bit more.
Make sure you pop that subscribe button and share with someone who needs this today.
Fresh out of the lab, because it makes a nice change, your host, Kate Whitley.
Thank you. It is nice to get out for a bit and be released into the community. And in this episode, I am speaking with an incredible woman who focuses on bravery, hope and female empowerment, Sarah Oakley from the Brave Bird Club, who is on a mission to inspire everyday she-roes to find their bravery through hard times. Now, Sarah describes herself as smiley, driven, talkative, fun-loving and a hopeful person. I agree, but I also see her as much more than that. Sarah, the absolute dream for me is to have you here in the podcast. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely thrilled. The Brave Bird is in the house, folks. Whoop whoop!
Disclaimer, I'm not brave all the time.
That's the whole point, isn't it? It's about the fact that we aren't brave all the time. We need to step into that. We can't be that always. You always come across as being lively, bubbly, insightful. We've done clubhouse rooms together. We've had conversations. And to be honest, you're one of those people that I could just sit and talk to probably all day, go to bed that night, get up in the morning and just carry on the conversation as if there hadn't been a sleep in between. Do you know what I mean?
The feeling is very mutual. The feeling is, I feel like we'd be, you know, when you're about 7 years old and you're in bed, your mum's like, shh, go to sleep now. We'd be like,
yeah. And I know why that is. It's because you have passion. And it's not just about, I don't mean to use it in a cheesy, flippant way. You have passion for what you do. You come across as having passion for life. You have a moving forward perspective. I know, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, that you've had to move away from issues, pain, problems, like many of us have, but you have used that to move towards something else which drives your passion. Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah. I've had to find my brave. And that's what I do for others now. And I think in all our lives there are going to be times where you need to be brave. And if I haven't already, you can be sure that you're going to have these times in the future. And I guess my journey is how I support everyday she-roes to find their brave. There are so many people out there, and it's in the good times and the bad, right? Because there's one thing being brave very publicly. You can, like, I don't know, climb the mountain and the photos at the top and you're carrying the medal and everyone's like, oh, that's a feat of endurance and I'm so inspired by that. That's amazing. And there's another type of bravery where things have been really hard in your life and it goes on behind four closed walls essentially, and it's lonely and it's grueling and it's tough, but you look a mess, but you look back and you think, my goodness, I was brave. So I guess I've translated what's happened to me in my life into what I do professionally now, and hopefully that rings true for people. You know, it rings true for me.
Yeah, you embrace the whole work-life balance. You aren't just trying to hunt for the work-life balance. You seem to have pulled it all together. Now, that's what it looks like from my perspective, but I know there's more to it than that. Tell me about how you have managed to fit everything into being in this for the long haul, because you're doing this. That's it, isn't it? This is your passion, your thing.
Yeah. Well, I've always worked for myself. So I guess I've always had that drive behind me in everything that I've done and passion behind me. So that is good. However, when you say work-life balance, I mean, I've got it in many respects. Like, I live out here in Mallorca, I get outdoors a lot, I have time with my family, I do things like paddleboard and snorkel. Like, you know, some people could look at me and think, oh, you're living the dream or whatever. But I have a lot of issues going on with my personal work-life balance because my son has health problems, my husband has health problems, and he's a bit better now, but I had to take years out at one point to become his carer because that was my priority. And still now balancing me as a wife, a mother, and a business owner is tricky. And I constantly feel guilty about one aspect of it. From the outside, it probably looks like I have. From the inside, I don't think I've got it quite right yet. It's a work in progress.
That's really honest of you to share, because I think you represent pretty much all of us. For anybody to turn around and say that they have the full, everything's in perspective, everything just goes along with green lights, I am reluctant to believe them, because life happens, things happen. What I think is most important is how we deal with, cope with, move forward with those things that come up, and how we try and make sure that they don't impact negatively the rest of our life. So we can still going on, we can still keep moving forward in our business, because ultimately the business at the end of the day is what drives us, brings us money, helps us live, and that impacts our life at home, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think a lot of us who run our own businesses, part of those businesses are expressing a part of ourselves, and we have that need to do something that we think is important. And so we do that. I guess because it is so important, and for me personally, and I know for you, Kate, a lot of what you're doing is quite heart driven. It's customer focused. It's about making other people's lives better, and that's quite addictive. And it can be
No,
at the
absolutely.
expense. It can be at the
Yeah.
expense of the people the closest around you. It can be that, say, the irony of me putting a positive quote up on Instagram with my son sat next to me wanting the conversation. It's a funny business ownership, or like solopreneurs or small business. It's a funny life, isn't it? But it's also wonderful. It has its perks, and I do get to express myself through it, and that is a joy, and that does bring me satisfaction. But because it is so close to my heart, I guess maybe people can relate who are listening to this, how it's that balance, the work-life balance, like you mentioned at the start. It's funny how you invited me in sort of with that suggestion, and no, I think it's a battle for us all. I mean, I don't even know if there can be a balance. It's all sort of the same thing. Like, my work is my life, and my life is my work, and my family and my life, and my family always come first, but I have a passion for something, and that's what I'm driven by. So it's a funny old game.
It is, and I really
Yeah.
think we get caught up on the whole word balance, because balance sometimes, it sort of implies everything is in harmony, everything is as it should, and we need ups and downs to counteract and balance each other. So it's very, very clear seeing you out there in the media promoting what you do. I don't normally ask this question. This is not a question that's going to be something I'm going to ask people on behind the strategy, because I think it gets us to try and pin down to maybe what we're doing right now. But you're in it for the long haul, you see. So what do you do?
It's that question, isn't it? What do you do? What do any of us do?
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
really knows, but
yeah. And I don't mean the whole, oh,
yeah,
you fucked the elevator pitch. No, let's move
yeah.
away from that. No.
I guess on a simple level, I sell pants, right? I'm in the underwear business, if you want to take it that way. But I sell very special pants, Brave Bird pants, and I run the Brave Bird Club, and they go hand in hand, because I think I said it when I was speaking before. My passion is to support everyday she-roes to find their brave. That's the energy behind the pants. You put on these pants and you find bravery. That's the energy behind the club. That's the energy behind people I connect with and want to come in, and the speakers I talk to, but also the people who are listening. We're all on this bravery journey. We all want to find that little bit more, or have that insight, or have that strength as we move forward. And that's where I sit, and that's where I offer support.
When you look back, if you go right back to when you were growing up, when you were a child, I'm sort of not going to sit here and be, Dr. Kate, how was your childhood, Sarah? What, because obviously people have had different upbringings. When you had a vision for what you wanted to do or be, we all have that, oh, what did you want to be when you grow up? What did you want to be? What vision did you have for yourself?
I just knew I wanted to be with people. I love to connect. I love to create, and anything where I was sort of sat in an office. I tried working a normal job for a bit, but I think I was kind of unlucky. I never had a great boss. I think if I'd have had a great boss somewhere, my life could have looked different. I could have flourished, but I never felt inspired by the leadership above me. So I ended up doing my own thing. And
Yeah.
what did I want to be when I was younger? I didn't have a set plan, just people. I just knew I wanted to be with people, consider things like a teacher, maybe something like that, but I hadn't got a set plan. I suppose an entrepreneur was a dream of mine, and that word's thrown about quite a lot now, and a lot of people catch on to it. And I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful because that's what's given me so much fulfillment in my life. And for kids or younger people to think, yeah, I want to do that, I want to create something bigger than me, that's wonderful too.
Yeah, and it seems that also you instinctively knew you wanted to be with people from what you're saying and from what you do because they spark you. You get energy from being around people, and you then turn that back and give that energy back to them to help lift them up so that they can carry on being the people that you want to be around you to help fire you up.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the reasons I can sense within you as well. You have that ability to let the energy flow and the spark, and you're sharing your passion. You're not just I'm doing this and passionate. It's all about sharing that passion for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny, one of the first things that I did when I decided I don't want this corporate job, maybe a job to sort of please the parents or go down that line, I was like, nah, I'm gonna slightly rebel against that, as lots of us do, right? And I flew out to India and I trained as a yoga instructor and I had a crazy experience. I came back and I covered a class for this teacher, and then he called me up and he said, would you like to meet me? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I met him under this tree. I remember it's like the sun was setting and he was absolutely lovely. And he just said to me, look, none of this is making me happy. I'm going to go and train to become a Swami. And I like your energy. And he said, so I'm going to give you my business. I'm going to give you all my contacts, my studio space, all my props, everything. And I just think you should run with it, Sarah. It was strange because I thought training as a yoga instructor was just a bit of a win for me, a bit of a, oh, this is passion, maybe I should try that. And then having that given to me, I was like, wow. And what made me mention the yoga, I don't actually talk about it that much, but what made me mention that is you saying about the exchange. Now, what I learned in a yoga class is that you go into the room, people say, how can you teach 5 in a row? I clock them up back to back, or how can you teach that many in a row? Because you give and they give back. It's an equal energy exchange and it feels wonderful. It really does. And if that balance is off, then something's not quite right. But when that balance is on, oh my goodness, you feed off each other. And that's what I find as well with, the work that I do now. It's it just feels good. And if it doesn't feel good, I that's a sign for me. If I'm not laughing, that's one thing that's really important to me. Like I like to laugh so hard, my whole body shakes, quite regularly. Like I love to laugh. And if I'm not laughing or having joy, then that's kind of a trigger sign. But at the moment, all is good. Brave Club is off and it all feels great. So we are good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, though, I so relate to that as well because I used to work for, and I still do for a different one now, but I used to work for an international sporting federation, and we used to put on the championships, and I would literally be going all day, all day, all day, and people would be like, how can you just keep going? Don't you need to go off and do this? But no, because I knew once I'd stopped, I wouldn't be able to then necessarily step back into where I needed to be to keep going. I wonder if that's the same with you as well, is that by being able to keep going and harness that energy, it actually has, as it creeps forward, as you're with people more, it has a bigger impact on them and on you, and therefore people come
Yes.
back for more. What do you think?
Absolutely. I have seen the reverse of that as well because I had my husband suffers from chronic ME, and at one stage it was really, really bad. About 10 years ago, we had young children and he was so ill. He was kind of in a dark room every day, unable to do like the simplest of tasks and chat to my kids and stuff. It was a disease I'd never come across and I had no skills to deal with, and it was pretty unbearable. And at that time, I had to step back from what I was doing and I became his carer. And that was the right thing to do at the time. That was absolutely the right thing to do at the time. And it's made us incredibly strong and it's given me depths that weren't there before. So it was positive. However, it hit that point where I realized everyone talks about self-care, right? Have a bath, put some lavender on your eyes, think about self-care. And I had that realization that actually my work is a form of self-care. And I was very depleted thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can hold people the way I did before. I don't know if I can. I guess that's the word hold, because you feel like you have to have a certain amount in you to do that. And then I found as I slowly took it on, my energy grew. So hearing that word, and it's actually a podcast that I listened to that I heard it on, where the lady said, I discovered, and she had a very sick child, and she said, I discovered that work for me was an act of self-care. And I was like, oh, okay. It's not easy because my husband still has health problems and needs a lot. So it comes with all kinds of guilt and stuff, but I have to drop that because who I am and expressing that through my work is something that feeds me, and it makes me a better person as a result.
Talking about that as a work-life balance, one thing that really annoys me is when I see people saying this is what you need to achieve, or this is what you need to aspire to prove to yourself and everybody else, or to show, or this is what a work-life balance means. And what really annoys me is that actually we are all different. Some people need more of this and less of this, and other people need it the other way. The word balance implies everything is all as it should be. And life isn't like that. And my belief is that if you constantly are trying to make everything okay, when something really negative or really impactful in your life and other people around you, if you spend the whole of that time, you'll find that you're caught up in trying to make things better for everybody around you, rather than actually stepping into what's happening, managing it, dealing with it, and then working out what works, what doesn't work, and how that's going to impact you moving forward, so that there is a moving forward rather than a being stuck in trying to make everything okay. I'm trying to differentiate the difference. Is that how you felt after a while when you were in that position?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I was hearing as you were speaking there, and it's like the importance of, and I think as women as well, and I think this is important. I'm assuming they're all, men and women who are listening to this, but it's good for both of us to know women typically aren't very good at asking for what they need. And your need might be completely different to the person next to you, but unless you ask for what you need, you can't fulfill that part of you where there's a pain, where there's a sadness, where there's a lacking, So I think work-life balance, there's I haven't got it sorted by any means. I struggle with my work, even though from the outside I live in Mallorca. People can follow my Instagram and see that I'm snorkeling or going out on my paddleboard and think, whoa, she's got the life. But believe me, I haven't got it sorted because I feel guilty a lot. And sometimes,
stop you there.
yeah,
Don't feel guilty, because when I see those posts,
yeah,
I am actually, what I'm gaining from that is not, I don't think, Sarah's off having a nice time and she should be working. No one is thinking that. What I'm thinking is, do you know what? It's good to see somebody having fun. I really must make sure I do some more of that myself. You are having a good impact. Yes, it's reminding me that I need to make sure I put these things into my life. I can't be the only one who thinks that, I'm sure.
That's good to know. And is the guilt is more, I don't know. I guess it's a feeling like, and I guess it's what drives me as well, but it's not necessarily the nicest way to drive me. I always feel like I should be more. Like if I'm out doing that, I feel like, oh, I should have my kids with me. Or if I'm working all day, I think, oh, I haven't spent enough time with my husband. Or if I'm not working enough, I'm like, I'm not doing justice to this baby that I'm growing. Or, in terms of your business is your child, right? Your baby. It's like,
Absolutely.
it's a funny thing, and I do. I feel it a lot. Yeah.
You're not the only one. It's that drive for, again, the drive for perfection. And so instead of actually noticing some of the good things, I wouldn't necessarily say it labeling anybody, saying, oh, you're a perfectionist, or we all have this. But there is that innate way of wanting to make things really good, and we always look for new ways to improve. Some people always look for new ways to do and improve, and actually when you get caught up in that, it impacts how you then view the smallest thing that you've done. And so, I should have had my kids with me. Okay, yeah. Why? What? Yes, that's true. I've thought that. Oh, wish I'd done it this way. But actually that brings it down to a macro level. And half the time that then just tells the brain, oh, you haven't done a good job. And actually maybe things aren't as good as what you thought. And bring ourselves down. We're brainwashing ourselves into thinking, well, actually, you're not doing such a good job anyway. Even though 5 minutes later something great will happen and we go, I'm doing a brilliant job. If you're somebody that can step back into that power of the positivity, then that's a really amazing thing to have. But a lot of people can't, can they? And the reason I'm mentioning it is because you are very passionate about raising money for women who are in that situation where they can't step out of it. And I just wanted to use that to shift over, because it's so powerful what you are doing and how you're raising awareness. The women in this may be going through whatever they're going through, but they are still women with lives the same as you, the same as I. They may have businesses, they may not. It's just that the way that they're going to be viewing each moment, like we've just talked about, is going to be impacted by what's happened right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, can I give a bit of background to that? So I formed the Brave Bird Club, and we sell brave knickers, brave bird knickers. And the reason that they came about is watching my best friend go through an abusive relationship. We were barred from speaking to each other for, I think it was about 7 years, and we sneaked the odd text, but it was impossible. And I actually met up with her once in secret, and oh my goodness, the light in her eyes are gone, and all the sparkiness. She's such a sparky girl. It was devastating. A part of me was a bit broken because of the result of this. As you can imagine, I think about her all the time. And then one day I got a message on my phone, and it said, I need to leave him, but I don't know how. And I was like, like, I've worked with top execs, actors, coaches, teachers in well-being and performance management, and I know what to say, but when it's like my friend on the phone needing to turn her life around, I was like, oh my God, what do I say to her? So I quickly tapped back, like, if you were your own best friend, what would you do? And she said, I'd put on my brave pants and leave him. And I was like, okay, you do that. So that's when the pants were born. And what these pants do, they fundraise for a domestic abuse charity in the UK. And they also acknowledge that energy where you make that change, where you're brave. I mean, her leaving wasn't, from the outside, it was messy. It was a toothbrush and a bag and running out and having to leave one child there while she takes the other. And all the, thought of it and how tricky it was for her, but it was just so brave. And I just feel like if it's not, domestic abuse is one situation where we need to make a stand, and I won't tolerate it. But there are lots of different areas in your life where you need to find that brave. And she did it that day. And then I was like, I've got to make the pants for other people so they can do that. Wow. What a wonderful girl. She did it. I mean, it's not easy as well. I paint the picture when you leave a relationship like that, you don't ever leave it. It's not as simple, and her life took a while, but piece by piece, she has rebuilt something special for her. And as you say, there are all these people out there, people listening to this that have just got something going on that is just monumentally difficult. It's overwhelming and it's very difficult, but I guess what I'm here to say is there is hope, and you will find your way out. There's always hope, even if it's the faintest slither. It's there, and you will find your way out.
It is. And the thing is, it also raises awareness, and it also gives a place. It makes it okay for other people to talk about things and mention things. I'm not one for sharing tons and tons of things that have happened in my life, because it's not because I don't want to be vulnerable. Partly it is, but it's, for me, I have to put things into boxes so that I can then park them. I know they're there. I don't have to take it out and examine it and feel better about it. I don't have to do that. And a lot of people are very similar. I've spoken to a lot of people, they want to put things into a box, and that way, that's how they can move forward. Because when you're actually going through something, you're not in the right place to make decisions. And it's only when you look back, you realise that how you got through, what was the strategy, literally, of getting that oomph to pull yourself through. Something had to give. There was a line. Now, we all have our own lines. Okay, we create our own lines for what we will accept and what we don't accept. Now, those lines are in a place which could be because of what's happening, and so your perspective is perhaps not as it should be. So maybe the line is in a different place to somebody in a different position. I don't want to make out like, oh, well, we create this, we do it, that's ourselves. No, we have to live and survive. So each of us has that line. But there is, at some point in our lives, whatever we're going through, a point where that's it. That line has now, we can't keep fooling ourselves. We have to stop now because we know something else is down the road. Now, in the 90s, I had to leave London and I came to Oxford. Things have happened all along the way. So I have been there. I'm also an ex-social worker. I've worked with many families and who have been through that. And also when I was with the DWP, which in the UK is the department where we have benefits and help for women who are going through this. And so many people aren't aware of the amount of benefits and help that there is for people, and how the experience of asking for help when you don't know what you don't know. Do you think that is actually a catalyst of, when you don't know what you don't know, it makes it harder to be brave, doesn't it?
There's so many things that have been really interesting about what you've just said there. I think, first of all, just to take it back to when you were saying about how you put things in boxes, it's your decision how much you talk about things and you don't talk about things, and how vulnerable or open is appropriate for different situations. Like, I'd say something different to you that I'd say to my father-in-law, that I'd say to the delivery guy. Like, you just, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not authentic. It just means you're talking to a different person. But I guess my boxes have become less and less and less over this journey, because I've met the most incredible people who their magic is embracing who they are and the shame of maybe their past, or finding things difficult, or, you know, things that they've had going on, and the overcoming of that and the expression of it. So but I still have boxes. I still have a couple of things that, say, myself and Lucy, who did the series 1 of our podcast together, she knew not to ask me about, because I don't want that in the public. I'm not healed yet. I don't want that in the public arena. And I think that's absolutely okay. But in general now, apart from those 2 things that I'll probably speak about at times, right? But I will answer anything or go to anywhere. What made that shift for me? I never used to be like that. I used to be quite guarded, believe it or not. I used to be quite guarded as a person. My upbringing was quite guarded. We are not emotionally bonded tightly. My family, I love my mum, I love my dad, and I'm so grateful to them, but we are on different planes in terms of our, part of it's generational, but also in terms of just our mentality or whatever, and our openness, and that's cool. But what shifted things for me is when I had to, you talked about it just then, I think it's so applicable to life and business, because, you know, they're both interacting, is I had to ask for help. I was grown up I'm such an independent person. If I want to do something, go and do it. I'm so driven. And yet when I had my husband, that time I spoke about, when he was so ill and I became so exhausted, the time when things changed is when I had, and that blew open all the pretenses I had to put up, all the person I wanted to showcase. Because when you're that vulnerable, like my friend Lucy running out, like you in times you have to say, please, can you help me? You can't be the same again. It's a wonderful, horrible, awkward, beautiful thing to happen in your life. You know, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I wouldn't take it away either.
It's about trust, isn't it? And it's about trusting ourselves to be brave, trusting ourselves we can get through this. And I think that's first. And then once we've acknowledged that, it's knowing that, right, to be able to do that, I have to now trust by asking for help. If it backfires, I can deal with the consequences, because things do backfire. And that when you're in a vulnerable place, you don't just go, I'll go and ask for help. Oh, they'll help me. You know, people call me up. Kate, can you help me with this? Yeah, sure. They're doing it because they know I can just suddenly help them. They need it done. So when you want something more than that, when it's deeper than that, you don't just call up and go, right, I need help doing this. I'm in this situation, you know, because you're not thinking rationally and you're doubting your own judgment in all of it. And that, it makes it harder to trust yourself and then to trust somebody else.
But I think as well, like, it's that asking for help is, again, like asking for what you need. It kind of is a skill, isn't it? Like, you know, if we think about businesses, and what's it they say, 9 out of 10 new businesses fail or whatever, go down in 2 years. And all of us are going to have that time where things are really difficult and you need to ask for help. Like, what do I know in my, like, what do? I want this business to make it, but I'm not making it right now. Can you help me? Whereas if you do that, oh yeah, the business is going great. Yeah, it's going really well. You know, which we can all do. You miss that juncture of actually, can you see something that I'm not seeing? Can you help me in a way that
Yeah.
I can't help myself right now? And yeah, we've got to be careful. No one wants to be an energy drainer, of course, or like ask too much.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we need our own.
Yeah.
We need our own boundaries and how much we say yes to. But at the same time, there's nothing more wonderful than helping someone when they really, it will be of value
Yeah.
to them. And that gift is the value to them. It's not that you want anything back. It's just that I know if I just tell you this, that's just going to help you. And that feels really nice to me too. So when done correctly, it's a beautiful exchange. And I think community and supporting each other and coming together ticks all those boxes. Yeah, in life and business in every respect. Yeah.
It does. And I think that really sums up nicely what we've been talking about, because this is just we've covered a lot of ground here, and I really wanted to keep going to get what was behind the strategy with you, Sarah. And I think the message has come across is that it's to ask for help. Don't worry about what people think. Everybody has to ask for help sometimes. Don't worry about trusting your judgment. Everybody has to ask for help. We all make decisions based on emotions, the incorrect information. We all do this. We often put ourselves into a category of I can't because. Let's cut to the chase. Everybody's going to need help at some point. Do we even look up to, value and respect people who don't ever need help? Do we? Because we might see them there, but we don't necessarily see them as real people. It's only when you hear them in an interview, you go, oh, I went through this, and you go, oh, okay, right, now I like you now. I can see what was behind the character. And that's what we're drawn to. We're drawn to people's story, isn't it? So I think we've hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah.
And that is to ask for help. And if you can't, and you think you can't, maybe that's the place to start. Why? Why is that? Why is it that you feel you can't ask for help?
Shame. We're often ashamed that we can't. We've been brought up to be, it's a bit of English things, are stiff upper lip, and oh, didn't she do that well on her own? Your parents sort of encourage this resilience, and resilience is beautiful, but not to the fault of potentials of what could happen, who you could be, who you could speak to. Because the one thing I always think is, like, in anything, and I recognize that completely in this business now, like, grit's not going to make things happen. Grit and hard work, luck isn't going to make things happen. Like, people make things happen. People. That's just, people are the secret to everything, aren't they? So, and asking for help has to fit into that. They are.
Yeah.
It's people. It's not the best program.
Yeah.
It's not the most magical, I don't know, tech setup. It's beautiful community, strength, supporting each other, good energy, people.
It is. Without people, we wouldn't have a business anyway. We need people for our own business. It makes sense to just immerse ourselves into
Yeah.
into the
Into the
world, isn't
people.
it?
Woohoo!
Into the
Yeah.
people.
And take that whichever way you wish. And happily
Exactly.
married, by the way, monogamous relationship. But
But if you're not,
that's
that'll be
cool
my next
too.
podcast. If
Yeah,
somebody isn't,
exactly.
that's my next podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's all of
Oh,
intrigue to me. But yeah, no, I've absolutely loved that. You're one of those people to me, Kate. You're always just so positive and encouraging, and but you do it with the structure behind what you're saying as well. It's not just airy fairy. It's
yeah.
like it's got real substance behind it. So yeah, thank you for being one of those people to me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here, Sarah, and for us to have a real dive down deep into it. May your world domination with everybody wearing brave pants commence.
My thank you. I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with me. I'm gonna love to catch up with you again at some point. Loads and loads to talk about. As I say, we could talk about everything all day, but the message that we've come up with today for Behind the Strategy is to ask for help, embrace people around you, put yourself into the world, step into it, even if you need help. And that's it today for Behind the Strategy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You've just listened to a Strategy Success Lab production of Behind the Strategy with Kate Whitley, bringing you inspiring guests and motivating messages to challenge your perspective and simplify your strategy.
Don't forget to subscribe and pop over to strategysuccesslab.com for more exciting episodes. And if you've loved this episode, go and share it with someone else who needs it today.